I just wanted to be clear, first of all, that the rate of divorce has
Has
decreased,
gone down, yeah.
has gone down over time. But
Hmm.
also there is definitely a correlationship between divorce
Marriages.
and marriages.
You're right.
So the rate of marriages too has declined significantly in Canada. So,
Yeah.
it's
Around the
hard to
world too.
tell
Yeah.
whether or not, the rates of divorce are falling because there are not many people getting married, right?
Hmm.
Or if it's just other external factors. But definitely the lack of the reduction in the number of people who are getting married definitely
Right.
affects that statistics.
The rate of divorce.
Also, another thing too we should note is that in Canada, the nuclear family is no longer the dominant kind of family. Nuclear
Hmm.
family is the husband, wife,
And the kids.
a couple of kids, right?
Yeah.
It's no longer the predominant as a family style. There's definitely the common law unions where there's really no official marriage in that sense. You're
Hmm.
living, can we stay type situation
Right.
is happening a lot.
Mhm.
The
Today we are going to be talking about the divorce rates in Canada. Try to explore some of the reasons for that. Um, I must say we are using Canadian statistics, so it's going to be reflective of the situation of where we are in. Canada is where we live, so there might be some differences in statistics from other parts of the world. So I just have to throw that out there. So in case you guys have different statistics, know that we are focusing on Canada, but we'll try to make it more general. But again, our statistics are from Canada. We have posted two pictures on our Facebook page for reference. You can use those pictures to follow our conversations and to see what we are talking about. If you have, again, just remind our viewers, if you have any comments, if you have any questions and you want to join, please let us know. We will be happy to bring you on. Otherwise, you can leave it in the comment section. I will be happy to answer your question at the very least or try to give our opinion. Again, welcome this lovely Sunday afternoon. Hopefully, we are going to have another interesting show. Excuse me. Today, like we said, divorce rates in Canada and why. We have the stats. I'm sure you saw it. Were you surprised by any of the stats we posted on the Facebook group? So, looking at the divorce rate across the age group, was anything striking?
uh, striking is what I think age group between what I felt like would be a risk group, age group for divorce, high divorce rates would be, according to the statistics, I think between 30 to about 45. I think
Mm-hmm.
most of I mean, the statistics that I saw indicated that most divorces happen between that period. They had
Right.
higher divorce rates between 40 to 45. I think
That was
that
the
would probably
highest.
be the
Yeah.
highest. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at a range, I think from 30, there's the
From 30.
risk. There's
Yeah.
a risk and up to 45 or 45. I think that's where.
Right.
And so probably our age group are probably highest in terms of risk. And
Mm-hmm.
again,
Mm-hmm.
the reason would be they say rates of divorce generally between the average
Marriage.
marriage duration is usually 15 years, and most of if you were 40 to probably 44 and you got married early, then you're falling within the 15-year range now.
Yeah.
And then there's definitely, of course, there's the likelihood that you might be experiencing some of the reasons which results to divorces. I mean, reasons which we
Right.
would talk about, but again, it's within that range.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty consistent. If you look at in 2016, 13.8, 35 to 39, 10.9, 40 to 41. If we go down to maybe 2019, 11%, 11.1% for 30 to 45, 11.6% for 35 to 39, and then 12%. So, yeah, consistently, you can see that those in between the ages of 40 and 44, they rank the most rate of divorce. And by virtue of the fact that most of these people have already been in marriage for a few years,
Mhm.
and considering the fact that marriage are delayed delayed nowadays, I would say maybe about average between what,
Ready?
7 to 15 years marriage at this point. So
Yeah.
people are on age to 45. So average around maybe like at least 5 to 15 years. If you say people are getting married around age 30 to 35.
Hmm.
So these people have been in the game for a little while. Okay. And it was not surprisingly, the least divorce age was those above 65. I mean, if you stayed with someone that long,
I
what's
mean,
the point? You just have to see it through.
at the end, yeah, of course. Of course, at the end of the day, once you have been with someone, you've gone through all the different stages of a marriage.
Right.
If you have survived that long and you're, 50 plus, 60 plus, your kids are all grown. At the end of the day, what you're looking for at that age is more companionship,
Right.
even than anything else. So
Mm-hmm.
why separate
Mm-hmm.
when you've resisted. I mean, you've passed through a whole lot. You've gone through a
Yeah.
whole lot, and at that age, there's definitely no point
Yeah.
in
So
separating.
there's really no
Yeah,
point because they were all trending below 2%. So that's
yes,
1.7, I
yeah,
think, with the least in 2020 being 1.2. So at that age, you like, I'll just die with this person. Like, what's the point? Another interesting thing, well, but nonetheless, people at that age still divorce,
of course,
right? It's not like,
of course. It's not like everyone is people probably still want to live their lives and do new things and meet new people, or just be themselves,
just
and not
be
having
themselves.
anyone
Right.
be around them to inconvenience, or so yeah, people are
People
still
still do.
separating even at that old age. That's definitely true too.
Hmm. Okay. So I think it's very clear that we have between 30 and 55. That seems to be the chunk. A majority of people get divorced around that range, 30 and 54.
Mhm.
Um, what do you think is happening? Another list group was those below 20. Like the divorce rate among that group was pretty low. I think the highest was in 2016 for the last couple of years that we're looking at. 5.5% in 2016, and it ranges, and that's the highest, and goes down to 3%, and I think the lowest is 2.1%. So that's another group that doesn't experience a lot of divorce, and their motivation might be different from those who are at the other end.
Mhm.
What do you think is happening with this group?
First of all, it's a group that isn't marrying,
Not a lot
or
of people
shouldn't be marrying
right.
at 19, 20, like 21. You still I know we had a conversation the last time and we said we had to figure, but I think you're still in the figuring stage of your lives,
Literally,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Those who get into marriages at that time, first of all, there are very few of them, and I
Mhm.
think 5.5% it's I I mean, we were believing in the statistics, but I think there's a lot more people ending marriages at that young age,
At that
20
age.
20 20
Mm.
25, 20 to
Right.
25 years, because again,
Oh, we're talking
uh,
about 20. We're talking about below 20.
below 20 again, how many
How
people are
many?
getting
No,
married
not
below
a lot of
20,
people.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the few that get married, I mean, no,
So
I think.
I think these are probably the very religious people that are from strong religious background and is being found like extramarital sex relationships are being frowned upon. Right. I think this is more common about people who have a tight knit religious group. I would say people like the Mormons, people
Mhm,
like the Mennonites,
mhm.
people, or those kind of groups, right? Where you grow up in the same community, you're expected as soon as
As you
you're,
get a certain age, yeah,
yeah,
you're getting married. Or
you develop breasts, develop buttocks, and the man is going, yeah, then there's a family pressure for you to settle down. So I think it's probably more common amongst very religiously conservative groups,
yeah, I would
you
agree.
know. And then people too at this age who are infatuated by their very first love, by their
Hmm.
very first girlfriend, and they think that they're going to last forever. So they heavily tie the knot. Or maybe someone gets pregnant by mistake, and to save the family name,
Yeah.
you tie the knot. because these people, yeah, they're just off high school. Some of them are in university, first, second year universities, right? Right. So, yeah. So there's quite a few reasons, but for sure they have a different level of motivation to divorce than the other group at the opposite end.
Right.
Then you can see that there's almost a significant jump between 20 and 24. So it's almost more than double the percentage. If you look at it, sometimes three
Mhm.
times, more than three times the percentage from those below 20 and then those to 20 to 24. There, I see three times, I see almost four times. So for me, I'm looking at maybe the infatuation is off.
Still there, right?
Maybe, yeah, or it's beginning to
It's
want
yeah, winning out, I guess.
waning out, and you think,
Hmm.
wow, is this really what marriage is about? Do I have to sacrifice all these things? Do I have to accept all this person's flaw? I don't even know who I am. I'm still trying to figure, and there's other people I thought I could be with and stuff like that. So I think people are beginning to grow in themselves here, and they realize, wow, I made a really big mistakes in my teenage years, so I have to correct that.
But even
Uh,
at that age, you're less tolerant for nonsense because you're young and you know you still have options. It's not late for
right.
you, right? You
Mhm.
can end this one and start another and get into another relationship in a couple of weeks, and in about a year you're getting married. So they
Yes,
know
again,
that their options are
the
pretty much
options are
open.
so
So their
right.
tolerance for I don't want to say nonsense, but their tolerance for inconveniences
Right.
and the causes of divorce is pretty low. So it's
Mhm.
easier for them to decide to end the marriage and move on, right? In those cases, most of the time, probably they have no kids yet, because
Yeah.
sometimes the fact that they are kids kind of delay the process, because maybe you want the kids to get a little bit older before you. So
Mhm.
there's nothing tying the two of you down except you, right?
Yeah.
There's no you haven't bought a house, so
Yeah.
there's no joint property conversations.
Yeah.
Probably, you're still maybe trying to figure yourself career, you're not stable.
You
So
don't have a
definitely
career. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
easier for you to say, okay, I'm done with this, I'm going to move on, right?
Right.
As opposed to people who have been there for, I know, 10, 15,
10,
much
15
older
years. Yeah.
people who have a lot more to lose, and who have other joint commitments, and you find it a
Yeah.
little bit difficult to break away from that, right? So definitely I see clear reasons why, 20 to 24, you can easily just walk away from something,
Yeah.
um as opposed to staying and fighting,
Mhm.
like older couples would do.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can tell that this, I think that's the biggest jump we have from one age group to another, from those below 20 to those between 20 and 24. The other jumps are a little bit not very drastic. You get what I mean? You can see a
Mhm.
gradual decline, but from below 20 to 20 and 24, there's a huge spike. So the difference is almost, in many cases, three times more, almost four times more. So again, people with this, they probably still struggling financially. They have, in many ways, still trying to figure themselves. I think conflict resolution at this age is not very, it's not a very
Efficient,
big
effective.
effective, right? Um, Usually people are very strong headed at that age. And like, what did you know about yourself when you're 20 to 24? Financially, you're also still struggling. I don't know anyone who's financially stable between that age, 20
Very
and
few
24.
people are.
Very, very few, unless you inherit your wealth from your parents.
But I would say courageous enough for them to decide to get married.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
it's a very courageous a decision to make.
it
Now
is.
it's sustaining the marriage. Now that is usually an issue. But again, I would commend people who are,
Yeah,
20 to 24, 25. I would commend them for taking the step into marriage. Right?
right. Yeah,
It's definitely a big decision
yeah.
anyway. Again, just an aside.
And this, like I said, is very common in religious sex. It's very, might be common in some well-to-do countries. If you're from Africa, where a lot of people are living below $2 a day, I don't know if it's a wise decision to get married at this age.
Less than 25. Most children in Cameroon. Let's take Cameroon for example. Less than 25. Most adults are still dependent on their
Yeah,
parents
on your
for
parents.
for
Yeah,
for for, for their for their day-to-day upkeep for
yeah,
survival.
yeah,
Most of them still live at home
yeah.
at that age. Most of them are still, well, not most, some of them are still in school. They haven't figured out what they want to be in life. They don't
Hmm.
know what their life is going to be 2 3 years down the line, right?
Yeah,
And none of them is thinking about marriage. So
but
again,
yeah,
you're right. Maybe if you're in a country like, I don't know, with a little bit of wealth, and you can, find yourself out, get a career, get a job early, then
yeah,
maybe you can think about getting married between that age. But I know
hmm,
typically for Cameroon, I don't know any, I know very few people
yeah.
who got married before
Mm.
25 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not common in very poor countries because you first of all need to fend for yourself before you think of adding another responsibility. Yeah, and then most people are just getting out of universities to trying to figure out. Maybe you took student loans and you have to start paying back. Maybe you are thinking of furthering your education. Maybe I don't know many people, particularly for the guys. I think it might be different for the guys and the girls. I would say across all the age groups, but the motivation again to stay together is not as strong as those who already have a lot at stake. Should they
Hmm.
lose? So then we see gradual increase. It's not a big jump. There's some increase as the age increase as well. Maybe 1%, 1.5%, 2% in certain ages. And it's a steady increase. And then when you get to 45 to 40 to 45, then you begin to get a steady decline. It goes down gradually. I think by that time, most people's relationship have been tested, and you can definitely say, you know what, this is the person I'm signed up to live the rest of my life with. So why not stick it out?
Yeah, I think it's at that age that we say, okay, we've known the devil we've known for so long. We better stick with the devil we know as opposed to trying to find someone else.
Right.
I think there's generally a risk. At that age, you're saying there's a risk that the next person I meet might not be as good as the person I did. Might even be worse than the person I have with me right now, right?
Yeah.
So what's the point? I'd rather just stay here, manage with this one. I mean, we've managed for how long,
Right.
right? I'd rather stay here and manage for a couple of more years before I don't know who dies first. But again, yes, at that age, you're thinking a lot more about being
Stability.
comfortable. You're thinking more about the stability that you already
Yeah.
have, and then you're thinking about death, because at the end of the day you're closer to your grave at that age,
Right.
right? So why try to start something new? Why get involved in new headaches
Yeah.
when you can just manage the one that you
The
have with
one.
you? And
Yeah.
so
Also, at that age, there's already a lot at stake. People have built wealth together. People have
mhm,
probably have a couple of kids together.
mhm.
You've known each other's families and stuff like that. So
Grandchildren and
yeah,
all that. You don't want to disappoint. At that age, there's a lot of people you'll be disappointing if they hear that you're getting divorced or separated, right? So
mm.
you're like, at this age, man, let's just leave it as it is. Let's not disappoint anyone. Let's just enjoy the children we have, our grandchildren, and manage whatever situations we have, and
Yeah.
leave it at that.
Okay. So what's going on with the 40 to 44-year-olds? They are the highest across the board from 2016 to 2020. They have the highest rate of divorce. I mean, it's similar between those 35 to 39 and those 45 to 49. Those, yeah, there's very little difference between those groups. But what is happening with those people, in your opinion? We talk
That
about a
would
lot.
be
Yeah.
that would be would we be talking about reasons why
Yeah.
they are? But
These
again,
people have the highest.
be,
Yeah.
before we go to that, Ghana, I just wanted to mention a couple of things,
Hmm.
just to create a little bit of context with respect to the statistics that we are using. I just wanted to be clear, first of all, that the rate of divorce has
Has
decreased,
gone down. Yeah.
has gone down over time, but
Hmm.
also there is definitely a correlationship between divorce,
Marriages.
and marriages.
Right.
So the rate of marriages too has declined significantly in Canada. So,
Yeah.
it's
Around the
hard to
world too.
tell
Yeah.
whether or not, the rates of divorce are falling because there are not many people getting married, right?
Hmm.
Or if it's just other external factors. But definitely the lack of the reduction in the number of people who are getting married definitely
Right.
affects that statistics.
The rate of divorce.
Also, another thing too we should note is that in Canada, the nuclear family is no longer the dominant kind of family. Nuclear
Hmm.
family is the husband, wife,
And the kids.
a couple of kids, right?
Yeah.
It's no longer the predominant as a family style. There's definitely the common law unions where there's really no official marriage in that sense. You're
Hmm.
living, can we stay type situation
Right.
is happening a lot.
Hmm.
There is also single families.
Hmm.
No, there's also
Single parents.
families without children, first of all, where a man and a woman or a couple they come together and they decide that they are not having kids.
Right.
Again, it affects children, affect relationship in
Yeah, they
in a
do.
lot of
Right.
ways, right? So again, the fact that people are coming together and not having kids means there's a likelihood that they could stay a little bit more longer in that marriage. Also, you see, you,
Do you think?
uh,
Wouldn't people not want to live because of the case?
but again, the fact that there are no kids means with the inconvenience or the extra layer of complication in that family unit
Hmm.
is limited, right? Which
Yeah.
means that relationship can easily survive with a reduction in the level of complexities that you get when children start coming in. That
Yeah.
that that
Well,
was that was
I'm
the
saying you can also make an argument that a lot of marriages stay together because of the children.
yes, you could.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
you could go both ways. I think it makes sense. It's an argument that you could present
uh,
on both directions,
uh,
right? But again, definitely a reason why um you know uh we're talking about the fact that the nuclear usual family setting that we all know isn't dominant anymore in Canada. So there's also these other different kinds of unions which are really not considered when those statistics are being done.
yeah,
Because if we are
yeah.
living in a if we are a come we stay type relationship,
It's not captured.
nobody know, it's not official. So the day that we move apart, nobody's
Yeah.
counting that as a
Nobody's
divorce, as
counted
a
as.
separation, right? Because again, there was nothing really, no legal not legal document binding us together in that sense.
Right.
So again, that's that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to bring that
Bring
up,
that out.
just
Yeah.
saying that the data that we're using, there's also these other
The
factors
other
that have
factors. Yeah.
impacted the numbers that we are getting,
We
right?
are getting. Yeah. So we're just using raw data. We don't have all the details and everything, and we can't
Exactly.
say exactly what's going on. We're just giving speculations there. Another interesting fact is that the rate of divorce has gradually declined between 2016 and 2020. We want to note that 2020 was around when people were having
Okay.
the lockdown and the
Hmm.
pandemic. So a lot of people were staying home and they were forced to stay home with their spouses. So is it possible that people were not able to apply for divorce because they could not get to the offices or get lawyers because everyone was locked down? I mean, that's one way you can look at it.
The question,
Or
yeah, go ahead,
is it
Ganastra.
that people were more relaxed and not having the pressure of work and household and were able to stay together? I don't know.
Was
But
it what is it was it that people were so worried about their health and their circumstance, not very sure about the future,
right
that divorce was probably the last thing that
on their
they would
mind,
be
right?
thinking about, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So definitely I think COVID, the fact that people were in COVID had a lot to do with that
Hmm.
reduction in the number of divorce.
Yeah,
Now, COVID is just getting off, and lives are beginning to people are beginning to pick up with their lives. So
right.
we would see in the next 2 to 3 years
What the
if
stats,
those
right?
yeah, to see what the level of the rate of divorce is. If there, I would assume that there would be a significant increase in the
Hmm.
number again, because the 3 years we had the lockdown, no access to offices,
Yeah.
everything is shut down. People are locked up in their homes. People are worried about their health, about life, about their
Mm.
future. I don't
Yeah.
think divorce was something that anyone was actively thinking about during that period.
Doing
Now
it.
it's done. People will probably
Or
start thinking about
maybe,
that now.
let me throw this out there. Or maybe people are, I mean, 2020, we're just beginning to get into the lockdowns. That's when the lockdown started. So
Hmm.
that's when they started. So probably we'll need data from 2020 to 2023 to see how lockdowns affected divorce.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people, after they were locked down with their partner, were like, I don't really like this person after all. So I have to find a way to fight for divorce. I have a strong sense that we'll see an increase in divorce between 2021 and 2023 because people realize, what, I could get better, but I might be wrong. That's
I,
just my.
I mean, if you look at the statistics and you get you consider the factor, the reasons why people are
Divorce.
pushed into divorcing,
Hmm.
I would definitely agree with you that yes, after the lock. So if we get statistics from I don't know, 2021
Yeah, to
moving
2023.
to 2023, we might definitely
My.
definitely see we might definitely see an
Because
increase. I
think
would
of
strongly
it.
argue that there would be.
Yeah, going out to work, going out to your job, or doing something else, going out of the house gives a lot of people that reprieve,
Mhm.
you know, to go out and do something and relax, and then you can come back, and then maybe your partner is in better mood to interact with you. But being in with them 24 hours every day, you wake up around the house, you're cooking, they're there, you begin to confuse who has to take up these chores. Oh, you're supposed to do that. No, you were supposed to do that. But you're home, you're supposed to do this, and blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. And then people are like, I don't really like this person that much. Uh, think about the number of kids that were forced to lock down to stay home with sometimes abusive parents or
Mhm.
abusive relatives and stuff like that. So, yeah. So my inclination is that the divorce rate might increase in the next stats that we get.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The, another thing which I want people to consider as we talk about the statistics and before we move to the next
Mhm.
portion of this conversation today is that the process of divorce has been streamlined a lot in the past couple of years,
Yeah.
to the point where divorce has been made very easy. It's more affordable and it's accessible to a lot of people.
Right.
I know initially you had to post your intention to divorce in the Canada Gazette, which is kind of, you have to put your intention to divorce in the public, and then you
Hmm.
have to post that intention in two local newspapers for 6 months, right?
Oh
So
wow.
again, that was how it needed to happen. You needed to get parliamentary, you needed to get a document to
Yeah.
allow you to divorce, but that was kind of eliminated, and now
Hmm.
you only have to be separated for 3 months. For No, there was a period of separation that you
For
had
one
to
year.
go through, which was
Right.
initially was 3 years. You have
You're
to be
right.
living apart for 3 years before you can even file for divorce.
Hmm.
Now you have to be living apart just for
For
one
one year.
year. It's a
Yeah.
12 months matter.
Yeah.
So from 3 years to 12 to 12 months, right? You see that now it's easier for people to kind of get
Get.
divorced. And
Yeah.
then also, initially divorce was a lot of kind of a fault based thing where someone
Be at fault.
had to be at fault
Right.
for a divorce to happen. But nowadays it
No
doesn't it
fault
doesn't have to
divorce.
be. It just it
You can
just
have
has
no
you
fault
just have to
divorce. Yeah.
demonstrate. You just have to demonstrate that the marriage is breaking down,
Right.
and that could mean anything.
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 That that's why you hear celebrities in Hollywood were breaking up because of irreconcilable differences.
Yes,
No one explain what
it
irreconcilable
means yes.
differences are. It might mean that she doesn't like the socks that you wear, or you
Mm-hmm,
don't like the way she combs her hair,
mm-hmm,
or you don't like the way she chews her food, or the way she flushes the toilet. So it's very ambiguous, and I agree with you. Since the initiation of no fault divorce, so you can just go up to the judge and say, Nobody caused anybody. No one cheated. No one is
No one,
financially
yes.
irresponsible. No one is a drug addict. No one is abusive. We just are not compatible. That's it.
This marriage is not happening.
It's
It's
not
not
happening
working.
anymore,
It's not working for me.
isn't
And
it?
that's it.
Yeah.
Right? So you're not faulting anyone, because when
Yeah.
you fault, if you're faulting someone, then there has to be there's a process. There's an argument. I have to demonstrate that I'm not at fault. It lengthens and it makes the process a
That's
lot
me.
more expensive. Now it's like it's not this marriage isn't working.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm trying to find out when no fault divorce started in Canada. I don't know.
Uh,
Anyway,
uh
we're gonna get that. I know it's not more than 50 years,
yeah,
somewhere around that.
it's
Yeah.
a recent. It's not a very. It's a recent happening. Recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, like recent as in 50, not recent as in 10 years ago. Recent as in
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, uh,
Anyways, we'll get that stats later. I
mhm.
don't want to waste people's time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you can just go up and say, you know what, it's not working because we are not compatible. Do you feel like that has increased the rate of divorce? Like people don't have to show any reason why they want to divorce. You just
Yeah. You so there's you don't there's no legitimate you can have no legitimate grounds for divorce and be granted a divorce. All you
right.
need to do is separate. You have to move separate from that partner for 1 year,
Mm-hmm.
and then you say it's not working. That's it. Those are the
Oh,
only
it began.
two expectations.
Yeah,
Live
it
apart for
began
1 year.
1968. It's when it started. So we are probably around 50 something year
Into that
mark right now. How about 54-year mark? And I'm sure if you go and look at the stats, you can see the number of the
went up.
increases in divorce. Yeah,
I
because
agree.
yeah. The next slide we're going to talk about is the reasons for divorce, and we have a slide on our Facebook page. You can look that up there. Uh, was anything surprising to you?
I have a few things that stood out, but
Yeah.
for me, the most, the most, well, I guess the most significant for me was people getting married too young
Yeah.
or getting married for the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely an interesting point. Like people getting married too young. Like again, it's very we just like we said. I mean, if you're less than 25, I think. I mean, I'm not saying that people are not mature enough. People don't know themselves well enough to be married at less than 25. But at a certain age, less than 20, why are you getting married? By the
Mm-hmm.
way, what
Mm-hmm.
motivates you to get married at 20 years old or
Yeah.
less? Right? So it tells you a lot in terms of people who haven't. We talked again the last time about people figuring out themselves. What I can guarantee you 100% that at 20 years you know nothing about yourself. Well,
Right.
I mean, you haven't
You
found
know
yourself.
something,
You
but
know
not enough
a few things. You know a few things
to commit into it.
superficially.
Yeah.
In how much do you know of yourself at 19? I didn't know a lot about me when I was 19, 20.
Yeah.
Right? So the decision to get married at 20 years, again, like you said, for me it's a delicate decision.
Yeah.
Unless I was being forced into it, unless I had put myself in a situation where the marriage was the only way of solving that problem, I will not be thinking about marriage at that
Yeah.
age. If you had you impregnated somebody's daughter and the parents are insisting that you're getting married, well, you're definitely getting married. But
Yeah.
now, is it intentional? Were you intentional? Is it intentional getting
Mm-hmm.
married, or is it circumstantial? Right?
Yeah.
And if it is not circumstantial, I don't see why people are getting married at a young age.
Yeah.
And again, the rates of divorce are definitely going to be high at that age. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Because now 2 years, 3 years later, you found yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you're in a relationship where you know you were not supposed to be in.
In the
You're
first
with a
place.
person who you're discovering isn't the one who you wanted to be with.
Yeah.
And again, you're looking at yourself, you're saying, I'm young, I'm handsome, I have a bright future ahead of me. I'm not going to stick with this nonsense. I
Mm-hmm.
am going to move away, right? So I definitely would say that, getting married too young is definitely a risk factor for divorce. It's not a prerequisite, but yes, it's somewhere
There's
up there.
a yeah, it's up there.
It's up there
Yeah.
in terms of,
So
yes.
that contributed to 10% of divorces. And to be fair, people can have many of these reasons on their list of why they are divorcing.
It's
So someone
usually,
can
of course, it's usually not
a
one.
combination
It's
of
rarely just one specific reason. It's
yeah,
usually a combination of reasons, right?
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
What about
I
marrying for the wrong reasons?
yeah. What are the wrong reasons? Um, I don't know. The people have
That
to explain.
you marry gay because you don't give belle. It's not a good reason for marriage. It
Yeah,
sounds like a very good reason, but is it a good reason?
yeah.
No,
I don't know.
no.
Yeah,
It's a right reason. I'm not
mhm,
denying that
yeah,
it's a right reason. You give gay belle, you marry.
yeah. In a
That's the
perfect
right thing to
world,
do. It's
yeah.
the right thing to do, right? But it's
It,
still a good reason that for
yeah,
marriage. I think
yeah.
that the
I
question
know.
that.
Yeah, because well, with a lot of sexual promiscuity and stuff like that, what do you get someone pregnant when it was a one night stand? Will you marry them? Yeah. So there are a lot of reasons. I don't think it's a good enough reasons for people to marry. Yeah,
I agree.
I don't think so. But yeah, a lot of it stems back from the shame that came with being a single parent and the pressure to be responsible, to take up responsibility when you messed up.
Hmm. But again, the thing is that
It's
stigma isn't there
dissipating.
anymore,
It's
and
not
that's
there.
why divorces are easier to do, because again, society accepts, they accept, society has accepted that a man and a woman should be able to split and live their lives, right?
Yeah,
Society doesn't look down on broken homes or
like
single
they did.
parenthood. It's a lot more acceptable, which
Yeah,
means, yeah, if it's acceptable to that extent, people are not tied down to worrying about how your family, how society would
right.
look at you. No, people are, you could easily break away from a relationship because that stigma isn't there
Yeah,
anymore. Again, I was just tying it down to the point where you said before, you would get married
a lot
to
of
a
pressure.
girl you've impregnated because again, there's a lot of stigma
You
that
have to
comes with.
save. Yeah,
But
you have to
again,
save.
nowadays, though, the stigma isn't there anymore, and people are kind of free to do, as they please. But again,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, for sure,
wrong
for sure.
reasons.
Yeah, for sure. The social shame that comes to getting married because you impregnated a lady, or social shame because of being a single mother. That's not as strong as it was. So a lot has changed in that
Mhm.
regard. Um, also, this coupled with the fact that a lot of people are willing to be single parents. You have a lot of ladies saying they just want to have the child by themselves. You know,
Right.
uh, uh, coupled with the fact that a lot of ladies are earning money, they're doing well financially, so they think they can take care of the child themselves. A lot of men too are struggling, so they have little or nothing to offer to these women. So the women's like, oh, that I'm going to do it by myself. You get out. I can be the strong woman. I can go to work and raise a child by myself. So there's a lot of feminism too. You can blame it on that.
Hmm.
Poor women, they don't need men for decades upon decades. The rise of the of sexual revolution. A lot of people have multiple sexual partners now. So marriage wasn't necessarily is not tied to sex the way it was before. People primary reason or motivation to get married was like, oh, because it's forbidden to have sex before you get married. That was the main
Hmm.
motivating factor. So a lot of people are having sex younger and younger nowadays. So that's affecting. And one of the stats that I was surprised by is the domestic violence, physical and emotional. That was only 3%. But if you listen to the news, if you're on social media, you think that all these men are abusing their women at home. The, the news certainly makes it sound like the amount of domestic violence is just outrageous, that men are naturally inclined to be abusive to their partners.
Hmm.
And men have been demonized for ages for a long time that they are violent, they are they are they're emotionally abusive to their partner, they are toxic. I mean, you just look at the term toxic masculinity. It stems from that. So it's surprising to me to see that that contributed only 3%, 3% of the entire divorces. That's not a lot. So that's not a lot of men who are abusing their spouses physically and emotionally. You know what I mean?
I think domestic violence doesn't, I mean, again, not saying that it doesn't happen,
Yeah.
but saying that it is not as frequent as
As
we
people make
hear
it
out in the
in the
media.
news.
And like
Yeah.
it's really a harmful, destructive issue in society, right? It's one of those things where I don't know, that maybe we hear a lot about it because it used to be something that wasn't really talked about very much.
Right.
And so
Right.
now people are more open, people are more comfortable talking about it. So we hear it a lot.
Yeah.
But again, if you look at the
The
percentage,
start.
three
Yeah.
3%, if you look at the statistics, 3% is almost an insignificant number
Yeah.
compared to everything else,
Yeah.
right? So the men are not out there being
Abusive.
as abusive as some people would
They
like
make
us
it
to
sound.
believe. I,
Right.
I mean, I live with in a large Cameroonian community out here. The number
Right.
of domestic violence cases that you hear is it's not
It's
it's almost
barely do even. Yeah.
you rarely hear it, right?
Yeah.
So we hear it too much because, again, some agenda that people are trying to push out and blow: men are terrible, men are bad, men are this, men are that.
Yeah.
But again, look
Yeah.
at the
You look at the
statistics.
stats.
3% of people leave a marriage
Because of
because of domestic violence or because of abuse. 3%.
yeah, and even in that case, they have to define what that means. Because does it mean that your partner corrects you? Is that abuse? If your partner says no, you cannot spend this much, is that abuse? So there's still a lot that has to be defined there. But everything generalized, it's only 3%. You
Mhm.
know, that's very surprising to me. Because think of all the government programs and non-governmental organizations and non-profit organizations that are focusing on domestic violence, are focusing. Oh, you listen to the news, they always talk about, we want to get women out of domestic violence, we want to get women into safe homes, we're thinking about the women who are homeless because of domestic violence. Think of all the pressure and we get from the mainstream media, and then we only come here and to see it only forms 3%. So someone is lying somewhere. Someone is really
Or someone
lying
is
somewhere.
someone is exaggerating. They talk about the loud minority. I think
Yeah,
this is a case where the minority is louder than,
yeah.
right, and that's why you hear this all over the place. It's some agenda that some people want to push, or some people are pushing, and again, for good reasons, because again, there
There's a
are
cash
there are a good
cow.
number of women out there who are living in situations like this, who need to hear and need to know that there's support out here, that there's other options, right? It's important for that to happen.
Yeah,
But again, sometimes it's misunderstood to saying that every man is abusive,
right.
or every woman is being
It's a
subjugated,
victim.
or
Yeah,
is a victim of some kind
abuse.
of abuse from a man, right?
Yeah, because these stats are predicated on philosophies, so like the feminism philosophy, um, um, abuse of the toxic masculinity of men. Right. So think about all what we are being told about the harm that women face because they choose to get married, because they give up their careers and whatever. They are abused in their homes. It doesn't match up. It doesn't matter. And if you want to go to and get government funding for anything, you just have to say that you are fighting for women who are experiencing domestic violence. You have a higher probability to get funding than someone who says is fighting for male domestic violence, or if you're just fighting for domestic violence. The government is probably going to fund you because that is what we're told is the prevalent thing that is happening to a lot of women. It's very
Mhm.
prevalent.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So another start, I was coming. I thought maybe cheating and infidelity was going to be the primary reason why people divorce. I mean, it's high up there. It's second, 34%, but it's not the first. It shows that a lot of people are walking through infidelity and extramarital affairs in their relationship. You know, I mean, it's still grounds for divorce.
Let the statistics not fool you or give you the impression that infidelity isn't rampant, isn't as
Yeah,
rampant, or isn't a significant issue. It is.
it
But
is.
again, just like you said, what I believe is, like, I believe couples are who are probably deciding to walk through it,
Yeah,
maybe considering that yes, this might be a terrible thing that has happened, but let's walk through it. I think it's people are walking through situations like that a lot.
a
Not
lot
that
more.
is not happening,
Yeah,
because if you look at the statistics, you say, maybe just 34%, but it
no.
doesn't mean that it's just 34% of relationships are experiencing. I mean, marriages are experiencing that. Is the percentage of couples who are experiencing situations of infidelity is probably a lot more higher.
A lot
But I
more.
think a good proportion of those couples are deciding to work through their problem.
Yeah,
Which brings us to 34%. Is it how 34%?
34%. Yeah,
Which brings us
yeah.
to 34%, right? It definitely could be higher. Um, but it's only 34, which
And that's
is
also
interesting too.
which is high up there. But also a lot of people are told not to take nonsense from their partner. If he cheats or even if he just looks at another woman, just get out of there. That's what they're told. Just leave the relationship if he cheats. But it shows that a significant chunk of people are walking through their relationships, and even with infidelity, people are able to walk through and still have some sort of a good relationship after that. Um, Number one was lack of family support. I'm not sure what that means. When you read that, what did you
It
think? Lack
wasn't. It
of
wasn't exactly clear. It wasn't exactly clear. Would you equate that with uh intrusion or conflicts with in-laws? Would that be lack of family
maybe,
support? I
yeah, maybe
mean,
your parents don't want you to marry this particular girl, or they don't want you to marry this particular guy. They don't want you to marry from this village. They don't want you to marry from this country. They don't want you to marry out of your race and stuff like that. So I think those are things that may be included in the lack of family support.
mhm,
So just not people agreeing with your decisions. So it kind of ties like with what we talked last week.
mhm.
Um, um, if you want to get everybody on board, you know, people come here and then they still have strongholds to their cultures, right? Like the Indian culture, they want to marry and remain the Indian culture. Africans who want to marry and remain within their culture, depending on whatever country. So I think when you begin to break those bounds and then you don't get family support, that might affect and might increase your rate of divorce. And
I,
also, I think family support, not to cut you off, family support is very important too. Who you choose to marry, like who do you run to for conflict? Who can have your back when you go
that
try to?
would be definitely would be support. But again, I just wanted to talk about the some. I think the conversation we had the last time where we said yes, not everybody has to agree with the partner you're getting married to. With that of course that is true. But however, who doesn't agree now matters. If your immediate close family members are in constant disapproval of that relationship,
Mhm.
yes, people who are connected to you in certain ways, if they disapprove the man or the woman you're getting married to, well, is definitely a risk, because
Yeah,
these are people who are involved in your life, especially if you live in the same community where
but
you interact a lot. These are the people who would either have to support you
yeah,
when something is going wrong in your
Mhm.
home,
Mhm.
and these are people who you would go to talk to them about what is going on in your home, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Sometimes, and imagine if they were not in support of that
that union
partner
to
in the
begin
first
with.
place,
Yeah, yeah,
then they are not help. I don't think they would be ready to help you tap out of any situation that you're in.
but
They would probably try to make it worse. So they are not going to be giving you the support that you need.
mhm.
They are not going to be you know, telling you anything positive about your partner. They are
Mhm.
not going to, you know, help you resolve any issues that you have, right? So I think definitely the people you know, not everybody has to be on board, but I think there's a certain uh, um, number of people who have to be. I know when we were young and you were trying to date someone, they say you need their friends need to like you
Right.
first. Their friends need to like you first. So
Mhm.
that too is important, right? Because again, they are your friends. They spend most of the time with them. And if they don't like you, you can imagine the kind of conversations that they're
Yeah.
having.
Yeah.
If your husband's friends don't like you, I mean, you can imagine the type of things that they
Okay.
are
Yeah.
telling him when he's
Yeah.
out with them. If
Right.
your wife's friends don't like you, imagine the conversations they're having when she's
Yeah.
out with them, right?
Not
So
good.
again, they say you need to win the hearts of your partner's friends too.
Yeah.
And I definitely agree. You need to know your partner's friends. You need to have at least a cordial relationship with them, so that they can protect your interest and protect the interest of
The
your
relationship.
home, right?
Yeah.
They are the
Yeah.
first line of defense. If your wife was trying to do something wrong when she's with them, they will be the first people to say, "Hey, remember this? You're married, and
Hmm.
remember this man is a nice, gentle." No, they are
Definitely.
the first line of defense.
Yeah.
Imagine they did not like you, and your wife was doing trying to do something that wasn't appropriate. You think they would step in and say, "Hey, don't do it"?
Yeah. Yeah.
They won't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically, the kind of support that
Yeah.
I think we're talking about, right?
Yeah. Um, Tied at the third as lack of compatibility. Again, that could mean so many things. What do you mean by that? And lack of intimacy. They both came at 21%. So intimacy, I'm thinking physical intimacy, so sex and stuff like that, and emotional intimacy too. You know, uh, so some people just divorce because they are not sexually compatible.
That's
is
a
that
big thing.
any
Sex
surprising?
is that important to some people,
Yeah.
and if that there's no compatibility, of course. I mean, you're newly married, you're 2 3 4 years into a marriage, you're 25 years old or 30 years old, you have 20 25 30 more years to go. People want to be satisfied sexually
Right. So
too.
yeah.
So she is, or you or he is sitting there in that marriage telling herself, I can't do this for 2 more years.
Yeah.
I need to I definitely need to meet my sexual needs. My sexual desires have to be satisfied as well, right? So I definitely see why the lack of sexual compatibility, it's definitely a big thing for most people. Because again, I mean, where else do you get it? It's not food where you say you don't
Right.
know how to cook, but I could go to a restaurant and
And
eat,
right.
right?
Right.
Or
Yeah.
you don't know how to cook, I could go to my sister's place and eat.
Yeah.
It's not something like that. This is it's a role that only your partner could fulfill,
Go
right?
for it. Yeah.
And anything outside that is a problem. So would you stay for the rest of your life and
Yeah.
never be able to be sexually satisfied with your partner, or do you
And
go and find
well,
something? I
yeah.
definitely see why that would be a good reason for someone to say, I'm not staying in this thing, I better
Mm.
go now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then compatibility isn't just, it's not just about again, you could talk about values, right? You could talk
Yeah.
about values. I heard a conversation where this guy and this girl were really in love, made plans about marriage, and then now the question was, where do we do the wedding in terms of the church? He was Catholic, she was Presbyterian,
Mm-hmm.
and that marriage did not proceed just because they couldn't agree on who on which church would do
Yeah.
the service,
Right.
right? So again, values. Of course, we are all Christians, but
Yeah.
as a Catholic, there's a certain set of values that I have,
Yeah.
and if you were pressed and you didn't think you could abide to the values or the beliefs of the
Of
Catholic
Catholic
Church, of
Church.
course, that is
That's
definitely a
kind of
problem.
issue. Yeah.
It's definitely an issue, right? Again, fortunately, this issue was discovered before they got into anything serious. Imagine it
Yeah.
was some other
Later
value.
on,
Say, for example, I don't know what other values do we have. Someone who's very
parenting
traditional,
style.
believes
Yeah.
in tradition, believes in the rituals of traditions, and
Yeah.
then getting married to a woman who
It's
was
Christian.
strongly religious and did not believe in any of that, right? You give birth to a child, typical, they'll say we plant it, you send the placenta back home for it to be planted, and then there's, so little things.
Yeah.
It could be
Later.
as little as that, and it could create a serious problem, right? So just those little values too. Again, compatibility in terms of interest. Hey, I'm interested in a certain type of things, in a certain lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
You have a very different
Lifestyle.
lifestyle, different interests. If we can't blend and be able to work together and be able to do things together, man,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then again, once there's you go do your thing, I go do my
Yeah.
thing, that intimacy, you see how you begin to go apart, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, that even the little intimacy that could have, it's not there anymore, because you're doing your thing right there, I'm doing mine right here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So again, that definitely would be a good reason for someone to say, hey, it's not
Call it quits.
compatible, I'm not
Yeah.
staying here, I'm quitting.
Yeah. And I don't think it necessarily means that people have to do all the same things and like all the same things
But
together. But
there has
there
to
has to be
be a
some
certain
core,
level
right?
of compatibility, a certain level of.
Yeah. Right. But at least give the person room to be able to exercise those things that you don't even have interest in, or just
Mhm.
show them interest. Just let them be their own person in their own rights and do that. Yeah. Financial stress. I thought it was going to be higher, but it's only at 24%. Lack of commitment follows closely, 23%, and parenting differences. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you can talk about this? I think we've been going for more than an hour.
Yeah. So you let's do some comments and then we
Mm-hmm.
round up. We have a few comments.
Yeah. Can you read?
So Derek, say now, wait, did I read that already? Okay. Maggie Tanya says most marriages in the Western world are agenda based, especially women.
Yeah. Well, I think marriage is an agenda. There's nothing wrong with that agenda. As long as you guys' agenda match, I don't have a problem with it. People marry to be financially secure. People marry because they want children. People marry
Mhm,
because they love them. All those are agendas that you
mhm,
set forth. Right? People.
mhm.
So as long as they agree, I think he's trying to mean most marriages are shallow. I think that's what he's trying to say. Like they don't have the depth to withstand storms that will come, even inevitably come during the relationship.
Mhm.
That's for sure. Um, yeah, I don't think agendas are necessarily the issues, but is your marriage strong enough to to withstand conflicts and trials and tribulations that will naturally come because two different people are coming together? That's another question. I think people's temperament and tolerance for BS in a relationship has greatly reduced.
Yeah.
People do not have the fortitude to withstand trials that our parents used to. Remember, growing up, you hear of a first wife going to marry the second wife for the husband.
Mhm.
Those are things that are unheard of. I think people, a lot of women are not really dependent on their husbands financially, so they have a short fuse. If they think the man is not really living up to what they expect of him, they can take care of their kids themselves, or at least try to. So people have thought that a lot of sexual promiscuity. People cannot stay down to manage and stay one person. If you're out of a relationship today, you can be in another one tomorrow. So why stay? So all those things affect the divorce rates, in my opinion.
Zionist moving forward says women are more, again, the comment I think is with respect to the comment you made about funding from the government. It says women are more likely to face domestic violence more than men. Again, that's true. There are more women in domestic violence situations than men. That is 100% agreeable.
Well, we have to define that. What do you mean by domestic violence?
We are looking at that. We are looking at just the superficial general definition of domestic violence, where there's kind of abuse and there's both physical and emotional abuse, right?
Yeah.
That is how that's what I'm looking at. And definitely statistics, if you go follow statistics, it shows that there are more women than men in abusive relationships. That is
Well, it
that what
depends on
Sure.
it depends on how you define abuse. Because if you're just hitting somebody, well, that can be abuse. But if you hit someone hard enough so that they have a punch, they have a bruise on their face, or they have to go to the hospital, that's abuse. That's serious abuse. What I've read in many cases is that women hit men more. It's just that men's hit are more devastating to women. And also, what causes this abuse? It's not like you married a guy and then he just started hitting you. What started the abuse? Do you guys have to start insulting each other? Is that considered abuse?
So again, we are not looking at what causes. If we can have a whole conversation about what would cause abuse in a relationship or in a marriage,
Yeah,
but again, that's not what we're talking about.
yeah,
We are saying, generally speaking, that there are more women in abusive relationships than men. Generally,
yeah. I'm just saying I'm not sold on that
you're not.
because yeah,
Okay.
I'm not really sold on that because um it's not like men just start beating up women.
Again, Ghana, we are not
Yeah, I want to
we
talk
are not
about the
having a
reason.
conversation
Yeah,
about the reasons why it happens.
yeah,
We are talking about the happenings as
yeah.
opposed to
That's
the
what I'm
cause
saying.
of.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The other articles, and I'm sorry I don't have it here, is that these people are already hitting each other. The husband and wife, they're already hitting each other. It's just that sometimes the man's has does more damage to the woman because men generally are physically stronger. And also another thing is men are not reporting abuse the same way that women are reporting abuse.
Agreed.
So there's probably an exaggeration on that part of women to
Or
report abuse.
again, if you're not reporting something, we can't capture it,
Yeah, we
right?
cannot capture.
So based on what we can capture,
Yeah, based on what we can capture.
that statement I think is correct, is appropriate.
Yeah, I don't know if
It
I'm
could be
sold.
debatable. Again, it could be debatable, but I think at this, I would say it's appropriate, a statement to make. And then he
Yeah,
continues: the government funds an organization based on sample size. Again, the sample size for women who are abused is more, and so the problem is generalized based on the sample size. Again, making the point that you just made. The government will fund an organization that will help the most needed in the community. Not very different from the argument we are trying to present.
yeah. But the government forms homeless organizations for women. There's more homeless shelter for women, but men from the majority of homeless people. The government forms organizations for female prisoners, but men from the majority of prisoners. The government forms organizations for women who die at the job site. The men are the ones who die more at the job site. So I don't think we can really use the government. The government has shown time and time again that they are irresponsible. They really are not following the stats. There's a lot of sensationalization of these issues that we really do not follow. We really do not pay attention. Um, the family courts are heavily skewed to favor women. I mean, it's almost guaranteed. Even if you have an argument, even if your wife hates you and you guys have kids, you are the one to go out of the house. So I'm not entirely so. I think there's a political agenda. It's easy to cajole or make a sensational, emotional case that there's a lot of women are being abused more than men, but I don't think that really ties down with the reality. Again, the definition of abuse is very vague. It doesn't say what it is. Is it physical? Is it emotional? Is it using words?
It's all.
It's
So
all around.
my argument is that yes, they fund based on statistics, based on the information that they have at
Yeah,
hand. If you could establish that they are
there are false.
based
Yeah,
based on the reporting that there's a lot of women dealing with the situation. Of course, if that is what is being reported, why not? Right?
yeah,
If you also take into consideration that most of the time women who are dealing with these issues have their children with them.
yeah,
because most of the time the man is not in the position to care for a child.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I see why the government would want to fund this homes, right? A
Mm-hmm.
man, I mean, if you see a woman out there, a woman is usually with a child or two. But if you
Mm-hmm.
look at the man out there, it's usually just the man, who should be able to figure out things himself. Again, that is me making some kind of a silly argument. But I think yes, the funding for women is merited, because again, these women are usually accompanied by children, and secondly, women are a lot more vulnerable than men. Me and you agree on that
Well,
one
they
hundred
are a
percent.
lot more
That women
vulnerable.
are a lot more vulnerable than men. So
Right.
if there was an option to accommodate, to provide shelter or accommodation for someone, would it be a woman with two children, or a man? Right? If you were put in a situation like that, who would you pick? The answer is
Yeah.
obvious.
Yeah. You pick a
So
woman.
I definitely agree with the comments that Zionist moving forward just made. I seem to buy what he said.
Right.
I
Yeah.
know you
Yeah.
have a few
Yeah.
disagreements,
I
but
do have a
generally
lot of
speaking,
yeah.
I buy what he said.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's an expectation for a man to be able to figure out life and fend for yourself and not depend on the government in the same way that, in a way that is not the same for women. Women have more safety nets with the government
Oh,
than men do. So, anyways, that's a conversation for another day. But
for another
yeah,
day. Okay.
I don't
Any
really buy that.
anybody who is marrying a woman based on his family in,
See,
institution is a yam. It's not very clear what he was trying. What I didn't get what he was trying to say. Did you get it? No.
no, no,
I think you marrying somebody based on, yes, you can not just based on them, but you can look past them and look into what their family situation is, right? Their
yeah,
family, I mean, family institution, if that's what you want to call it.
no,
I think because most of I mean, the conversation I hear most of the time is, you're not only marrying the person, you're marrying their
the
family as
family
well.
too. Yeah,
And there's no way you can marry a person, man or woman, and think you can completely cut them off from their
from
family.
the family. Yeah,
It's impossible. So if you're marrying, you need to consider what family they came from. Definitely need
yeah,
to consider that, right? In making that decision, because again, those are the people you will be living with. Those are the people you will be visiting during Christmas. Those are the people you will be seeing family meetings and family reunions and things
yeah,
like that, right? So you want to know who they are and what their values are. So definitely, I think if you're marrying someone, yes, you need to consider your family institution. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
yeah.